كثير مننا سمع عنه أو سمع عن اهتماماته بأبحاث متخصصة بمجال الدماغ ومحاولات الاقتراب من قضايا مهمة جدا. فعلا موضوع على رأس الهندسة الحيوية وتأثيرها على الدماغ، كذلك الرؤية المستقبلية للعناية الصحية من خلال استخدام الامتنانات الحيوية. طبعا هو الدكتور وليد أحمد الجفاري موضوع مبتدئ، ويتفضل يدينا كلمة الافتتاحية.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. I will do the work behalf of the world. ضيوفي الكرام، سيداتي وسادتي، أشكركم على حضوركم للقاء هذا المساء الذي سيناقش البحوث العلمية التي ستعقد خلال اليومين القادمة في منتدانا هذا، مع طبعا وبادئا أحب أن أتشكر بصفة رسمية لصاحب السمو الملكي الأمير محمد بن نايف بن عبد العزيز وزير الداخلية على تفضله برعاية واحتضار هذا المنتدى في عهد خادم الحرمين الشريفين الملك عبد الله بن عبد العزيز حفظه الله. نعيش اليوم عصرا يتسم بالتحول في القيمة من الاقتصاد الصناعي التي تعودنا عليه إلى اقتصاد يستند إلى العلوم والهندسة والمعرفة، حيث ارتقت الثورة الرقمية من التجارة إلى الرعاية الصحية. فمن هذا المنطلق ارتأيت بتأسيس مؤسسة دبليو للعلوم اللاربعية، وحرصي لأن تكون المملكة العربية السعودية مستضيفة للدورة الأولى من السلسلة المستقبلية لانعقادات هذا المؤتمر والمنتدى، وكمساندة لوضع الأبحاث العلمية في وطني على خارطة الطريق لهذه المجالات. أشكركم جميعا ولن أطول عليكم. أشكركم جميعا على حضوركم وتلبيتنا للدعوة في مؤتمرنا الصحفي المرئي وغير مرئي، وأقدر لكم وأفتح الباب الحقيقة ما أظن في داعي التركيز علي، لأن خبرتي متواضعة جدا في مجال الطب، بحيث أني قبل أقل من سنة انتهيت من تحصيل الدكتوراه في الطب تخصص أعصاب. فطبعا إلى يميني وإلى شمالي حولي علماء معروفين ويشهد لهم العالم ومجال العلوم بباع طويل. فأرجو أشكركم جميعا.
شكرا دكتور على الكلمة هذه. أحب أقدم لكم ضيوفنا اليوم. So I'll be introducing all of you in Arabic. That's okay with you. أولا عندنا الدكتور باتريك بيشير، البروفيسور توماس بروفيسور هلال الأشول، دكتور جميل العماد. I think I'll give each of you like 2 minutes, and of course we have Bruno, who's going to be the MC for tomorrow. So Professor Patrick Bishir هو أستاذ علم الأعصاب ورئيس المعهد السويسري الفيدرالي للتقنية في سويسرا، وخلال فترة من عام 1984 ل 92 عمل بجامعة براون في بروفيدنس في أمريكا كمساعد ثم أستاذ العلوم الطبية. في 91 أصبح رئيس قسم الأجهزة الصناعية والمواد الحيوية وتكنولوجيا الخلايا لشعبة علم الأحياء والطب في جامعة براون. معلش صعب أحفظ كله. في خريف عام 92 عاد إلى سويسرا كأستاذ ومدير قسم البحوث الجراحية مركز العلاج بالجينات في المركز الاستشفائي بالجامعة في لوزان. Can you please give us like a 2 minute?
Okay, thank you. Just 2 words about, I think, this brain forum. You could say, why the brain and why Jeddah? Why the brain? I think it's the last human frontiers in science today. I'll come back to that. And why Jeddah? Because of Dr. Walid Jufali. No, he's a very successful businessman, but he's also a neuroscientist. And he's just got his PhD in neuroscience from a great university, Imperial College. So I think you need people like him with a vision to try and, to bring this kind of science, fascinating science, in Saudi Arabia. So I'd like really to thank him and all his colleagues for having put this together. So in 2 words, the brain. It's the last human frontier. It's the most probably interesting subject today. We all want to know how. I was always saying this. The brain, if you touch it, feels like porridge. But how from this can we become human conscious? And I think this is key. But the other part is this: with the aging population, you have a major medical need coming up. And certainly, as you know, dementia, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson, other, blindness, hearing loss are something very important. And you can say that medicine has improved a lot. You have spare parts for everything, in cardiology, for example. But the brains, the treatment are still missing. We need to have better therapies. And for this, we need to tackle the problem differently. And the amazing thing is, science now has improved tremendously. It gives us new tools from engineering, computer science, to tackle the big problem of the human brain. So you can imagine coming with new therapies, not only pharma, biotech, but devices, brain-machine interfaces for paraplegic, for tetraplegic, for blind people. And I think this is absolutely fascinating. This convergence of technologies, going from information technology, nanotechnology, biotechnology, cognitive science, is happening today. And I think this needs to be developed further. Also in terms of all the big data, I will say that data is the oil of the 21st century. We have the capabilities to assemble those, and I think to analyze them. And this will bring, again, new ways to look at brain function, but also therapies. So I think it is a unique time. And just to give you just one last example, my school, EPFL, that I'm leading, has received recently the biggest grant ever, of €1 billion for 10 years for the Human Brain Project. And this is to try to simulate, how the brain functions by a supercomputer. Now today you see Americans are launching a big brain project, and the Chinese are going to announce probably very soon another. So I would say the brain is the 21st century science question, both from an interest but also for potential therapies, but also for commercial down the road, potential possibilities. And I think this is fantastic that this is happening in this country, which is now developing in science. We just came out from a visit to KAUST. I was there 3 years ago, and I was very impressed with the kind of thing I've seen. And I think there are already collaboration with EPFL and KAUST, for example, and this is only the beginning. So I'm really hoping that this Brain Forum will help us develop, very important collaboration with this country and the other science, neuroscience enterprise in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Next we have Professor Thomas Grunwald. Professor Thomas طبيب أعصاب متخصص في علوم مرض الصلع والأمراض العصبية السريرية، لا سيما في التقييمات ما قبل الجراحة لجراحة الصلع في مركز الصلع السويسري في زيورخ. مجال عمله الرئيسي هو بحوث الأعصاب الإدراكية لعمليات الذاكرة في دراسته المرتبطة بالاتصالات العصبية، الاتصالات الفنية والبلاغية. يتعاون مع جامعة زيورخ للفنون سويسرا وجامعة الفنون والتصميم في كارلوس also ألمانيا. Cultural. Please. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I come here from a practical approach. I'm the head of the hospital in Zurich. It's the Swiss Epilepsy Center. So we are treating one of the diseases that are most common in neurology. About 1% of the population is affected by epilepsy. We want because you are already live for it. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So I said that about 1% of the population is affected by epilepsy. Fortunately, we have good methods to treat epilepsy, and about 2/3 of all patients can be made seizure-free by medical treatment. Unfortunately, 1/3 of all patients cannot be made seizure-free, and many of those can be cured by epilepsy surgery, provided that a good pre-surgical evaluation, diagnostics and treatment is provided. But in spite of all these progresses of medical and surgical treatment during the last centuries, we have still too many people dying from epilepsy-related causes. For example, it has been estimated that alone in Saudi Arabia there are about 2,000 people dying every year from epilepsy-related causes. So we still need more research in both medical and surgical treatment. We need to improve diagnostics and treatment, and we can perhaps learn how to do this by connecting our combined efforts with computer sciences. And so therefore I'm very grateful that Dr. Walid Juffali and Dr. Najam Al-Imad give us the possibility to discuss this with our colleagues here and with the new frontiers in computer sciences. And we already have begun to do some work in these cooperations together with the W Sciences. And I don't want to give away too much, but I hope that you will see the start of a new kind of electronic EEG social media during this conference.
Thank you very much, Professor. بعده عندنا البروفيسور هلال الأشول، هو أستاذ مشارك في علوم الحياة ومدير مختبر الأحياء الجزيئي والكيميائي لتحليل الأعصاب في المعهد السويسري للفيدرالي والتقنية. حصل على شهادة دكتوراه في الكيمياء من جامعة A&M تكساس، وقام بتدريب ما بعد الدكتوراه في كلية الطب جامعة هارفارد، وقد اهتم في تركيز أبحاثه على فهم آليات الجزئية للتكنيس العصبي ووضع استراتيجيات حديثة للتشخيص وعلاج الأمراض العصبية مثل الزهايمر، باركنسون ومرض هانتنغتون.
Before I start, I would like to join my colleagues and thank Dr. Walid Al-Juffali for his visionary leadership and for the creation of the Brain Forum, which is really the first of its kind in the Middle East, and also for creating the W Science Initiative, which I hope will not only catalyze excellence in research in the Middle East, but also serve as the nucleus for developing neuroscience research in the Kingdom and in the Arab world. I'd like to say just a few words why I think this conference is unique with respect to all other conferences in neuroscience and neurology that have been held in the Kingdom and others. It is unique in the sense that it does not only bring neurologists and neuroscientists, but it brings together leading scientists from multiple disciplines, from neuroscience, neurology, computer science, engineering, and it shows in the lectures that you will hear tomorrow, you will see clear examples of how we are able today to harness the advances that have been made in each of these disciplines to improve the quality of life of patients and their families. So it's a unique opportunity, I believe, for scientists in the region to get exposed to the frontiers in neuroscience. And we have been extremely pleased by the level of interest that we have seen both from the scientific community, but for me, most importantly, from the young scientists in the universities. We're really impressed by the number of people who want to register. Neuroscience and neurology is an area in the Middle East that has not received a lot of attention. There is a lot of attention in cancer, diabetes, and cardiology, but at the same time, we share the same global burden when it comes to neurological disorders. So we also see this forum as an opportunity to highlight the importance of investing in neuroscience, but also equally the importance in developing and training the right talent to be able to ensure that we can develop the right healthcare and treat patients who are suffering from these diseases in the region. Thank you.
شكرا لك. في الرابع عندنا الدكتور جميل العماد، زميل فخري في البحث في معهد الهندسة الطبية الحيوية في جامعة إمبريال لندن، وهو زميل في مؤسسة للهندسة والتكنولوجيا لندن، والمدير العام وكبير العلماء في شركة أبحاث نيورو EEG التي تقع في سويسرا ومتخصصة بالبحوث الطبية والتكنولوجية والتصميم والتسويق. والشركة تركز على إيجاد حلول مبتكرة وآمنة ومنخفضة التكلفة لمجتمع الرعاية الصحية خاصة بتطبيقات تحليل الإشارة العصبية.
Hello. My name is Jamil Al-Imad. I look after work. I'm the the chief scientific officer of the W Science Initiative, and the managing director and chief scientist of UNO. My background is computer science, and this is the whole idea of the initiative of W Science, is to bring computer science with medical science. Today, medical science lacks data management. This is being seen at present. Costs are rising, healthcare costs are rising, and the time and delay is the biggest problem today in healthcare. Computing has evolved to a tremendous level. If you look at the last 30 years, we see what you could get from a large mainframe. You can find it today on a tablet PC. We are reinventing. We are revisiting some of the old problems that existed in the past, where data management and the large volume of big data could not allow us to analyze it better. And given the technological capabilities available today, we are really putting a lot of effort into marrying computer science with neuroscience. We have a number of projects that we have launched, very ambitious, some with Professor Greenwald and his team, and some with Professor Patrick Abishar and his team. What they may look to you to do tomorrow as science fiction, you will soon see that they could be the science of the future. So W Science's idea is to bring initiatives and interdisciplinary skills, put them together, and that is basically the objective and the vision that Dr. Ghaffali has on multidisciplinary projects and groups working to solve common problems, and using science in an applied fashion and not using it simply for research. So we're taking science from the laboratories, and we are helping, working with the scientists that are working across the world, to take it to the consumers and the healthcare professionals and of course the patients at large. Thank you.
We also have our Master of Ceremony for tomorrow, Bruno. I'm sorry, I always get your last name. Gusani. He is the European Director of TED. He's also the curator for TED Global. I know Bruno for a long time, as I was the #1 TED translator in Arabic for TED. Would you like to?
Sure. Hello, everyone. What I do for a job is curating ideas. So I go around the world and try to find great ideas and people with those ideas and then help them spread. And I'm expecting to find some of those tomorrow here at the conference. We also saw some very interesting things today at KAUST. To me, this is a very exciting moment in neuroscience for a couple of different reasons. One is the linkage that Dr. Liman just mentioned between computer science and medical science coming together at the service of healthcare. And what that means? It means creating new tools, it means accelerating the process, it means making things possible that were not possible before. And among those things that are possible now that were not possible before is this. The neuroscience used to be, until recently, a little bit like astronomy. The neuroscientists would observe and then would infer and describe correlations. If this part of the brain fires up, then this is happening. And now the new tools are actually allowing to actively engage, actively intervene, turn neurons on and off, make parts of the brain act in a certain way rather than another. It's a completely new level of activity and of science that we are seeing coming. Some of it will be discussed in the coming days. So I'm very excited to be here, and let's look forward to the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruno. We have with us معنا طلاسي مداح مستشار التسويق المنتدى ومدير التنفيذي لهيد هاناي Communication. He will be introducing our local media to our guests. Talas, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Actually, what I'm gonna do, just introduce for you the people around the table. So now they knew who you are, and they know, and you know who they are. So this will help for better communication, especially that we are in one-of-a-kind press. I don't call it a press conference, I call it a social media gathering, because we are in a live streaming. People can tweet. We have Twitterists with us. I will start with Mr. Khalid Al-Ma'ina, the editor-in-chief of Saudi Gazette, and he is one of the online gurus of Saudi Arabia. He transformed the whole press to virtual online. Mr. Khalid Al-Ma'ina. Ustaz Hussein Shibukshi also is one of the very dominant columnist, opinion leaders, writers on Al-Sharq Al-Awsat newspaper, and he's a businessman, and he had so many programs on TV. Ustaz Hussein Shibukshi. Dr. Fouad Azab. Dr. Fouad Azab is in charge of the operation of Saudi United Doctors, and he is a writer in Awqat newspaper. He's a columnist. Dr. Shihab Jujum. He's a public figure, writer in Al Jazeera newspaper. Al Jazeera, la? You don't write in Al Jazeera. Media and education consultant. الأخ معنا سامي حسين معنا إن شاء الله حيصير دكتور. معنا الأخ خالد يسلم. خالد ترفع يدك. Khalid is one of the Saudis who were studying in the US, and he's one of the top Twitterists in Saudi Arabia, big followers with him. Dr. Rayan Kirkadan. They have a medical social media initiative. They are trying to educate the people about cases and what they do through the social media and where to direct them to go, which doctor, and so on. He and Dr. Ubay Al-Bashir also is a Twitterist in social media, and I like the word Twitterist. Okay. بعد كده عندنا شيماء المداح. She's from Headline Team. أهلا وسهلا. فوزية خان from Arab News newspaper. بعدين في عندنا على اليمين في الليدي سيكشن أستاذة منى الحريري من Saudi Radio English channel. So anybody wants to talk in English channel in Saudi Arabia, منى حريري is everyone. معلش منى في جنبك
إلاف طيب.
إلاف طيب.
لسه طالبة طب وبكتير.
أهلا وسهلا. لو سمحتي.
خديجة جفري.
خديجة جفري.
طالبة طب في ابن سينا.
طالبة طب في ابن سينا. ما شاء الله انتم جماعة ابن سينا سجلتوا كثير وعملتوا لنا زحمة في الريجستريشن. اوكي. منى على يسارك لو سمحتي. Shahad, yeah. Actually, Shahad, she's from eDesign. Yusuf at the back, please raise your hand, Yusuf. He's the guy behind a lot of the social media work. Yusuf at the back, thank you, Yusuf. بعد كده في عندنا الأخ
دكتور أحمد موصلي طبيب عام في وزارة الصحة تحت ايديزاين.
يوسف موصلي من الناس اللي بيشتغلوا معنا في السوشيال نتورك. بعد كده تفضل حامد عطاس من جريدة عكاظ و he's helping also in the media gathering for the conference. مستر أبو السمح. مستر ساوي مستر رشيد أبو السمح. الأستاذ محمود درويش. He's the copywriter in Headline. So now we are going to have, I think that was a 20 minutes introduction, so you know who is sitting with us, and we can have the Q&A going on. People from Twitter, they can get us people lively to do the questions on the Brain Forum hashtag أو منتدى _الدماغ. Okay, and I'm gonna give the mic to whoever wanna ask a question, so we can direct. تفضل.
Good
evening. The Kingdom has hosted many symposiums and conferences throughout the ages. Tomorrow there are two major ones in Egypt, also one in Riyadh. And usually what happens is after these conferences and symposiums are over, the files are put together, the PR people go home, the organizers go back, and the speakers take that. What will make this conference and symposium different from the other ones and the previous ones?
Well, I think I will let Dr. Jamil, he falls in the IP to handle that, because he can explain to you the methodology we're following.
Thank you. this conference came about as a result of the work we do. So it did not, it wasn't just a media platform to promote the concept. We have been working for the last 5 years on several very exciting projects in neuroscience and personalized healthcare. And we have realized that there is a big demand for talents and a variety of talents, because these problems will not be solved in one discipline alone. And we've set out to look for these talents, and in our quest for talents, we thought that would be very appropriate, since Dr. Jafali launched this initiative, to start in Jeddah by bringing some of the world's top scientists in neuroscience, and computer science, and other disciplines to be together, rub shoulders, rub heads, and really get collaboration going. An event such as this in 2 days, if you were to set out to meet some of the scientists, we have about 240 doctors will be attending tomorrow and the day after. We have about 30 doctors. So just to get the opportunity to meet and talk to these people in itself is a very good added value. And these events, we are taking the fruits. We are launching an educational program. All the lectures that will be presented in the forum will be available for everyone to electronically. We have a YouTube channel and other media. And we are taking some of the knowledge that we have learned, and we've set up in the conference, you will see tomorrow, a very large networking area. So these scientists get a chance in 2 days to see what otherwise it would take them 6 months to actually go around the world talking to each other. We're very excited. You will see a lot of exciting things tomorrow, and this is just the beginning.
I'd like to add something. I have not come to Jeddah to tell my colleagues here how to treat epilepsy patients. It's the other way around. I have to come here to learn from W Science how they can help us in Zurich, in Switzerland. We found that just by discussing the first project together, that there's so much to do, how we can improve the treatment in Zurich and the vicinity just by using computer technology. And just last night, we were discussing for about 2 or 3 hours, and we came up with a new project, how computer technology can help us diagnostics and treating patients in intensive care units. And of course, I would like to do this in Zurich. So when this conference is over, I will not generally let go. Make sure that he helps us.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, but I came here a little over 2 years ago, and that was my first visit to the kingdom, to Calif. And we had decided to collaborate on this Human Brain Project. And today, we visited and we saw, for example, very interesting work on the simulation, on the visualization, on the three-dimensional simulation, on what we call a cave. This is, handling of big data and representing it, visualizing. So this is a real collaboration with one of the biggest projects we have now going on into the brain. And then this is happening just here in Jeddah. So I think this is not just something that will just come and go. This is something that we hope will be, something that to nurture and to continue.
Sorry, just let me add to answer Mr. Khalid Moin. The answer to your question is interconnectivity starting after the forum is over. And we are here on all the IP fronts and all the follow-up mechanisms for that, because I can see your point very clearly, and I will second that. Thank you. Further.
Okay, I want to ask a question about epilepsy, and I don't know who is answering from the doctors. I want to know if it is curable, because I have a relative that she has epilepsy for 7 or 8 years now, and she's really losing weight a lot, and she's having a lot of seizures right now after 8 or 7 years past. So I want to know if she's going to be cured one day, or is it life-threatening? Thank you.
I think the best person in the panel here to address this is Professor Thomas Grunberg. They lead one of the finest institutions specifically for epilepsy treatment in Zurich. It's called the Swiss Epilepsy Center, Swiss EEI. We have about 200 beds in the hospital dedicated for epilepsy, and they have thousands of outdoor patients. And what we're working with them now is to introduce a remote diagnosis as well. And you will see tomorrow some interesting view as well, the 2 days, some interesting demonstrations on how we're able to, in the very short distant future, we'll be able to run remote diagnostics from anywhere in the world to a center like this. But I'll leave the specifics of epilepsy for Professor Gilwood to answer.
Thank you very much. The only problem is that I would be a bad doctor if I could answer your question. Because there are about 70 or 80 different kinds of epilepsies. Some of them are very easy to treat and some are very difficult to treat. So we have to decide how to answer your question in every single individual case. And we cannot do this without more data.
Okay, then tomorrow I will know everything and I will ask you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think, looking at what I said, is there any uncurable epilepsy?
Yes, there are uncurable epilepsies, and this is not where our work ends, because this is just another kind of work of how we do deliver comprehensive epilepsy care for these patients as well.
Okay.
أنا دكتور فتح عزب. My name is Dr. Fatah Azab. I was the president of King Abdulaziz University Hospital. In fact, I'm one of the establishers of the medical school and the nursing school, and I was in private healthcare for a while. I noticed in the last 35 years that the West region in particular has a problem with having the neurosurgical and neurology centers. There's an intention since now Dr. Reed joined the area, and the Jafali group already is in the healthcare business in a very nice way. Will they think in the future to establish one of a good center to serve the community? Thank you.
Obviously, why not? I mean, if the region is in need, but let me just correct that information here. It is my personal initiative and not the Jafali Alliance. So I don't want to get my other partners committed into something that they don't know. But no doubt, I can assure you myself that any feasible, possible collaboration between W Science and the local universities, medical sector is highly feasible and will not be discounted.
This initiative is a phenomenal one, and I'm very happy to be part of this. And I congratulate the sponsor, Mr. Walid Jafali, and the speakers on going ahead and collaborating on such an important initiative. Obviously, this addresses many factors and factions of society, the medical community, the educational community, as well as the public. But in true sense, who do you aim? Who do you have the end user in mind? Who is this conference focused towards the most? Is it the educational community, the public, the layman, or the health sector?
That's a very good question, Hussein. We are targeting all that you mentioned. If you look at the attendees that you'll see over the next 2 days, we have a mix of, we have postgrad students where we have opened quite a bit of space for them because these are the future of healthcare. These are medical students here in Saudi universities that they have a keen interest, and we were surprised by the amount of interest that this event generated. So this conference, the W Science aim is to help first and foremost the patients. Today, biomedical engineering means that there's a revolution taking place in terms of medical science today. Every one of us has a mainframe computer in their pocket. We call it a phone, a smartphone. These devices have unbelievable computational power. And we're looking at specific personalized healthcare applications for the science that we are working with our colleagues and universities with. So we want to help first and foremost the patients, to give them a better life. In the case of epilepsy, for example, you will see tomorrow we are working with Professor Thomas and his fine team on epilepsy prediction tools, because prediction for epilepsy is a very big step. Most people that suffer from epilepsy, they get their injuries from falling, not from epilepsy. So if they get a warning sign before the onset of an attack, that would prevent a lot of injuries. So we're tackling specific problems, targeted and focused. And we are bringing the scientists, and we are adding our computer science know-how, and aiming to deliver specific tools and devices that will help patients, it will help physicians that are working to treat patients. And also we have launched, and you will hear, I don't want to give too much away for the event, but we have also launched a major platform to help researchers around the world collaborate in tackling or unshackling this neuroscience or neuroscience and brain science. So the benefits is for everyone who is involved in healthcare, from the recipients to the people who are trying to deliver healthcare. See that?
Let me just add something. No, I totally agree with Jamil, and I would just like to add is that the benefit that the recipients of this benefit could be a multi-fold, a multifaceted, due to the massive exposure and the direct communication that will be built up over the coming 2 days with the various academic, medical, and institutions around the world. We have a very interesting group of scientists, world-renowned and associated with Europe, with Switzerland, Europe, the Far East, Tokyo, England, United States. So then everyone will have a turn tomorrow.
If I just want to add something, as a member of the scientific organizing committee, we are very sensitive to this issue of this cannot be yet another typical conference in the region. So we thought about every possibility that we can maximize the benefit from this conference, both to the scientists and to the public, not only in the kingdom but throughout the Arab world. And here I'd like to seize the opportunity to thank Dr. Muhammad Jan, Dr. Saeed from the King Abdulaziz University, and Dr. Saeed al-Qadar from King Faisal Hospital and Research Center, and the Saudi Neurology Society, because they've been an integral part of the scientific committee and they've played a crucial role in organizing the forum. So what we want to do is not just to bring scientists from around the world here to discuss science, but we also want to expose them to the science that's happening in the kingdom. And in the context of the conference, we are organizing in the morning of every day private meetings with the guest speakers and leading scientists from the kingdom, from different institutions, with the goal of trying to foster collaboration, but also expose those scientists to what is happening in the kingdom with respect to neuroscience, great research, and future plans. I also would like to highlight one thing that is unique about this conference in the sense that it's not a conference where we're only focusing on the achievements that have been made. We have brought thought leaders, we have brought people who are leading the major international brain research to really discuss what's the future of brain research in neuroscience, where we're heading in the next 10 to 15 years. And the goal from these discussions is hopefully for us, scientists from the region, to think and seize the opportunities in how we can be engaged in this new frontier, and not only by being really engaging through the collaborations and the frontiers. From the educational point of view, we made it clear that we wanted the benefits, people to benefit from this region beyond the venue and beyond those who attend. And for this, all the lectures will be paid, all the lectures will be made available online, and we hope that they will become very important teaching tools and materials. And finally, we did not get involved in this until we had reassurances and commitment that this will not be a one-time event and that there will be a continuum. This will be one part of a continuous series, and that this is part of an exciting initiative that is not centered only around conferences, but real project and initiative that will impact people throughout the kingdom, but will also catalyze neuroscience and brain research, the development of those two fields in the kingdom and in the region. Thank you.
Yes, I am interested in the brain and the psychological problems. So I don't know how much your research is covering this part, because we are watching a lot of increase in the psychological problem in Saudi Arabia, and from the light depression to the high depression. And I have been noticing in the last 35 years or more, the trials on the medication, they do the patient, and I see a lot of results, and the people are addicted to the medication. So would some of your research will be covering solving some of this problem, will guide the brain rather than using all this medication that until now I don't see any successful results from the patients that we have been witnessing.
Yeah, it's a very good question. That has been one of the problems with brain science. I think we have made tremendous progress in trying to better understand how the brain functions. But if you look at the number of drugs, for example, that have been put on the market for the last 20 years, it has been very disappointing versus other areas such as cancer or cardiovascular disease. So I think one of the ideas that we have to take, it's also unlikely that one single drug will, cure or have a very significant effect on a very complex machine such as the brain. So I think one of the ideas of this conference is to look differently at the brain. And I think we have to look more the holistic way. And I think the therapist of tomorrow will come more. You will include pharmacology, but you will also include maybe devices, rehabilitation, nutrition. So I think we have to look this in a different way. And I think this is a very exciting time on the one side, because those new technologies allows us to understand the brain better, and also, allow us maybe to think about new therapies. For example, preventive therapies. It's unlikely that you will tell your children to take a pill for 50 years to protect your brain against Alzheimer's. But we know, for example, that nutrition is key. Intellectual activity, physical activity, rehabilitation, computer devices, interaction. The brain is very plastic. So we have to learn how to use the machine to some extent. But before, we didn't have the data, we didn't have the tools. And what is exciting about this current time is those are converging. And I think this information technology, this nanotechnology and so on are providing new tools to look at how to treat the brain. For example, devices, in epilepsy, if you look at Parkinson's disease, probably the biggest improvement has been deep brain stimulation. You go to an electrode into a very specific brain area, and you can see, relieve a lot of the symptoms. In fact, the father of the technology, Dr. Alim Ben-Abid, will be there tomorrow to speak. But now we're looking at, you cannot only go to Parkinson's, but for example, there are new trials for depression using deep brain stimulation. So I think those kind of things. So this forum will be open. We have to be much more open-minded than we were before. But I think what is it's exciting science coming. Simulation science for the Human Brain Project. We hope that we can simulate the way we approach the brain disease so as to develop these therapies. So those are exciting times, but it is needed because we have not been very good over the last 30 years. When you look at the number of drugs that have been approved, the new drugs, they've been minimal. So I think we need a new area. And a forum like this one should help us think a bit out of the box.
Can you pass the mic to Shahab? Thank you very much. We are very, very من اللي بنطيب في الميكروفون. We need to pass it للشباب. تفضل. ريان.
Good evening. Since we're very social and we're close to people, the question that we have been getting for the last 24 hours since they knew we were attending this forum is realistically, how close are we to seeing real solutions in the market? In other words, tomorrow there will be, let's say, epilepsy patients, epilepsy patient families watching the broadcast. Will they just be watching scientific forum, or will we be discussing real solutions that will be available in the market very soon? So how soon are we, and how optimistic and hopeful can we be?
I'll start this and I'll pass it to Professor Zerami. But basically, there is optimism, otherwise we wouldn't do it. Otherwise, Dr. Jaffari would not put the time and effort over the last 5 years to actually look and put the spotlight on this area. The brain is the holy grail, or the last frontier in understanding the human body. And this is now, there is a spotlight around the world. And Switzerland has now become Silicon Valley of the brain. When you think that the university, EPFL, that Professor Patrick Abishar is heading, has won the largest ever grant for brain research, it tells you that this is going to be a very good attraction for scientists from around the world to find themselves there. I was at the launch of the project in Lausanne, and I think there's about 140 different groups working together to solve this problem. And that is only happening in Switzerland. So, not to mention what's going on in the States and elsewhere. So there is solutions. There won't be all the solutions, but I will probably pass the mic to Professor Abishar to just add some comments.
As I said, I think you have short-term potential solutions that will help. I think they do exist. They start to exist. But I think we also have to be realistic. You cannot promise too much in those very complex. I mean, what is exciting is science is getting there, and it's getting with the possibility to affect those. But that is taking time. But at the same time, we have new data coming from genomics, proteomics, and so on that we've never had before. When I was in medical school, we didn't know what Parkinson was all about, why it was caused. Now we have at least 7 genes that we know. Professor Ilan Lashwell works on 2 of them, which are very key, that could become targets. So we're not saying that tomorrow, but certainly in the 5 to 10 years, I think you will see new therapies. But for this, you need to bring the right people together. You need to bring the clinicians, you need to bring the computer scientists, you need to bring the neuroscientists, all this community. And this is also the goal of this forum, is to bring people of different disciplines that can try to tackle those differently. So, nothing tomorrow. Yes, there are things that, better treatment. Epilepsy is one good example. And I think, but also we have to be patient, but also, very sturdy about tackling, because those, I always say we have spare parts for nearly everybody, part of the body, except for the brain. As the people get older, if we don't solve the problem like dementia and so on, it will be first a very sad life, but the cost to society will be humongous. So I think we need to make more efforts in brain science and research.
And some very short comment for the epilepsy patients that are going to listen and to watch us tomorrow and the day after. There are a few solutions that are very successful, and I'm going to mention 2 of them: medical treatment and surgical treatment. And this helps most of epilepsy patients. The problem that we are facing, both in the kingdom and in Switzerland and the rest of Europe, for example, is that there are many patients whom we do not reach with our treatment and diagnosis. So one of the aims that we are following tomorrow is that we try to find new ways to reach those patients, and we hope that computer science will help us.
I just want to add one thing and encourage the students who raise, or the young people who raise this question, to watch the talks tomorrow, because I think you will see a glimpse of what the future holds in terms of promises in neuroscience research in many of the talks that will be presented during the next 2 days.
Okay. Any more questions? So we have time. No more questions. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.